Datasmith is one of the most important tools ever when it comes to exporting our projects to Unreal Engine. You can use it with 3ds Max, Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, Cinema 4D, and other CAD files. So we have GLTF, Step, SAT, many extensions. I highly recommend using Datasmith for all your data. It bridges between 3D software and Unreal Engine. I will leave a link to download it in the description. Now, once you open this page, you can go to Get the Plugins and scroll to find the plugin you want. In my case, I'm going to download 3ds Max Exporter plugin, but you can also download any plugin you want from the following. So I'm going to download 5.5 Exporter. Let's click Save and give it a few moments to download. When download is finished, simply open the Downloads folder and click on the installer. Now, click on Next, Accept, Next. Select the version you want to download the exporter for. In my case, I have Max 2024. Click on Install and give it a few seconds. Once the setup is finished, that's it. Now all we need to do is to open 3ds Max. Once you open your project or anything you want to export, you can simply go to Datasmith here. So this is where it will be in the ribbon. And that goes for most 3D softwares as well. So I'm going to expand this. And we have two methods to export. We have synchronize and we have the normal export that you will see a lot. I'm going to try synchronize. So you simply click on it, give it a few seconds. Now let's go back to Unreal Engine. I will make a test map here. So let's find the project, Datasmith test, save selected. And now to import our project, we need to click here and we need to go to Datasmith. We can either use file import to select a file to import or direct link import. When we click on this, we're gonna see what's open. So if you have multiple apps, let's say SketchUp or Revit, it will be here. Click on select and give it a few seconds. Now, let's select the location to save the file. So I'm going to select my project, Datasmith, and I can save it here. In my case, I will simply just make a folder, call it test, because I'm going to delete this file. So you can select or deselect the elements you want. In my case, I simply just want the geometry. Click import. Now let's set up the light. So I'm going to Window, Environment Light Mixer, create the lights, and here we are. So let's say this is not really good. We can go back to 3ds Max, select the wall we want to modify. In this case, it's this guy. Click here. Let's add UVW map modifier, select box mapping, and let's set this to 100 by 100 by 100 units. We can synchronize again, give it a few seconds, or you can even toggle auto sync. So if I do this now, it's fixed. So let's give it a shot, toggle auto sync, and let's put 3ds Max on the left or the right. Now, if I select any of the elements here, and let's say I want to move it, give it a few seconds, and it took just a few seconds to sync exactly. So I press Ctrl Z multiple times to bring this back where it was, give it a few seconds, and it will also go back where it was. There we go. And that's it for sync. If you want to save your files, which is something we always do, we click on Export or Export Selected. I'll make a folder, call it Datasmith or DT. Make a new folder here and call it Maple House, for example. Open and save. This will also take a few seconds. So I'm going back to Unreal Engine, click here, Datasmith, File Import, and we can select our file here. You can set the location, so I will save it next to it so I can delete both later. Give it a few seconds and it will overlap on top because they are the exact same position. And here you will notice that we have two files, one from the direct link and one we just imported. That's it for this part, and I will see you next. We will learn how to download Datasmith for SketchUp. In my case, this time it's SketchUp, so we will simply download. Once you download, you can open the file. So here's my file here. I will double click, click on Next, Accept, click also on Next, select the SketchUp version I want to export for, click on Install, and give it a few seconds. When it finishes, click on Finish, and now let's open a file I downloaded from 3D Warehouse to export it to Unreal Engine as a test. After you set up Datasmith, when you open SketchUp, you're going to find this floating toolbar here. I believe you can dock it. And just like 3ds Max, we can export a file or we can sync. So let's start with exporting a file. Simply click on export, and now let's set a location to save this. I will save it here and then call it a name, let's say city, and now I will open Unreal Engine. Here we are in Unreal Engine. I made a folder, call it test, another folder, call it maps, and open this map. Here we are. Now we can click on add Datasmith file import. We can select our file from here, and it will ask us to set it to a location. So I will set my location here. I will make a new folder, call it Datasmith or DT, click OK. Now in this case, let's import the textures, why not? Click import, give it a few seconds, and here we are. When you import Datasmith files, depending on the checklist you check, if you have textures and materials, it will open folders for them. And of course, geometries for the geometries. And here we are. Now we don't see anything because we need to add some lights. So I will click on my simple plugin here just to quickly set up the lights. So if the exposure is too high, we simply need to reduce the post-process volume exposure to something less. And that's it. It's really, really easy to export anything with Datasmith. You can use it with 3ds Max, SketchUp, Revit, Rhino, and all the other CAD and BIM tools. Now we can also use live link or synchronize. So if I delete everything from here, so I'm gonna select all and simply just empty my map. Now we removed everything. We can go back to SketchUp or your tool of choice and you will find these icons. So we have auto sync and we have sync. If you have a small project, you can use this. Or if you have a big project and you want to sync manually, you can do that manually from here. So I will do that manually. Simply click on sync, give it a few seconds. Now we can go back to Unreal Engine and we can go to the add menu, Datasmith, direct link import, and we can select our active project. In this case, it's City A6. Select. Now set the location you want to save this. Let's say here as well. So click OK, click import, and wait. And now the exact same will happen. We can see here this green icon. This means that it will auto re-import every time we sync our assets. This is only with direct link. And I deleted the lights by mistake, so let's add them. And here we are. I hope you found this part useful, and I will see you in the next one. Think of yourself. Maybe you are this person, the person who takes care of the project from its start and set up the project for success. Once you start doing multiple projects in Unreal, you will create your own folders, your own files, and you can easily map things out. And you will also request from your team or from yourself to better organize the project. If you open 3ds Max or any program that you're using and you click on the layers, and inside the layers, what do we have? So if this is something someone worked on before you, that's great. You can pick up where they left and work on the project in a way that it would make sense for everyone to open the project and be able to read from here what data do we see on the screen, and also easily hide it, unhide it. What's important is the readability of your layers names. The way we want to think about 3D data, there are many layers when it comes to creating interactive 3D experiences. We can have a layer that is just the architectural elements, and another layer for the medium, smaller objects like the furniture, and then another layer for all the smaller details. We have a layer just for the project, and then we have a layer just for CAD data. And then we can have a special layer for special objects that we know they are going to be blueprints. So we can treat them differently if they are all in one file. So in a way, I treat the layer explorer here in my tools of choice like Blender, 3D Max, Cinema 4D, all these tools, just like I treat my word outliner and my content browser, because they will end up in both areas. Whether it's the first time you're starting the project or it's a project you got from someone. I do this. I open a tool like Miro, which is an amazing whiteboard tool. The user experience when you want to create the mind maps is just really cool. And where did I get this from? If you click on the plus here and search for mind map and then pin this to your toolbar, you're gonna have it here. When you click on it, you can click and drag. Here, you can state anything that you want to dive deeper into. We have an AEC project, right? What this project? It becomes easier to answer when you're using a tool like Miro or pen and paper. It's a very good tool. I want to show you another example where I was mind mapping what type of important materials or surfaces I would want to use or reuse across my project. So when it comes to translucent objects like the glass, we might have this type of glass, and then we might have other types of glass. And the same for plastics, the same for floors. You can think of this as your playground, or it can be really any tool where you explore the project before you open Unreal Engine, before you make folders, before you make anything. This is extremely crucial process of producing your project and laying down the correct foundation for you and for your future team or your current team. So you are the person who's laying down the foundation. It cannot be more important than this of the project, where when you finish one project, let's say if it's this villa under this project here, you can easily transfer assets from this project to other projects. And also if you have something like this, so VRD global, this is the global assets and then materials, and there is VFX. So you can easily reuse these things in all your projects. And this all can be done if you plan correctly. Now, your homework is to do something similar. Do one for the materials you need for your project and for the type of layers and objects that exist in your project. And based on that, you can create names and you can create layers and give them names in a way that's really easy to explore in Unreal. So the way you set up your projects in your digital content creation tools or BIM tools, it will make it easy for you to work on your projects, update them in Unreal Engine or any other real-time engine, because it's all about data, 3D data. And what is 3D data? It's just a bunch of vertices. Look at this. It's just 1, 2, 4, 8. Anything can be made with vertices, splines, and few modifiers from here and there. How we organize it, how we name it, how we put versions of it, it's just the foundation for future. I believe mainstream digital twins will be a thing where everyone have their own version of their house and they have their own version of all their furniture, and you can lay it around, manipulate the space, redecorate the space within your digital twin, personal digital twin of your house before you do it in real life, whether it's a small 1+1 room or it's a big little villa or 2 villas. One of the main reasons I love using Datasmith is because it allows me to build my project slowly, step by step. As the person who is setting up the project and collaborating with multiple people, there will be parts that are done and there will be parts that will needs work. For example, let's say everything is done except for the windows and the doors. We need to delete all these, anything related to them, fix them, or ask the artist related to these creations, fix them, and then export for us a Datasmith file. Now, if you don't use Datasmith, don't worry. We will cover other methods with GLTF, USD, FBX on how we can simulate the Datasmith experience. One thing you're going to notice while you're working on projects in progress, that you're gonna find mistakes. And things I look for at the start of the project is the names. I don't want to see object 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. The better the names, the better it is for me to select objects and update the project. Obviously the poly count and the polygons and whatnot, but also the materials. Because one of your first goals when you start using Unreal Engine with the limited amount of data you have is to create something that looks nice. So obviously here the first thing we would do is fixing the floors mapping. So let's assume, for example, the floors in the project are not perfect, they are stretched. When you open your 3D application, there will be two types of projects you find. A project where you have object 5, 6, 7, whatever, and no layers and all. Or you can open a project that is organized and easy for you to select things and work with. Just select the floors like this. And in my case, I will assign a UVW box mapping. So I definitely prefer the second type of project where it's really easy to select the items I want to fix in my project. And simply now, let's say the floors are final, or I just want to export the floors, I would isolate my selection and I would go to desktop, not desktop, to my temp Datasmith file, Maple houses or villas. And here I would say this is Maple 22, the code of the project, and these are the floors of the whole project. And if there are any changes later or updates on, let's say, the second floor, no problem. We can always select the objects here if they are all in one layer, delete them in Unreal Engine, do our fixes here, and then just simply export this. And this way, you build your project step by step. It's like a Lego. You fix one part and you say, okay, we will not gonna touch the floors anymore or the walls anymore. So now we are free. We can assign the actual materials on the objects. That's how you want to think about any export tool. And Datasmith is not just a plugin. Datasmith is a collection of plugins and scripts that bridge between digital content curation tools and Unreal Engine. So I think about it like a translator of data. Translator of these 3D objects and their metadata and their UV data and their material IDs to Unreal Engine. That's how I like to think about Datasmith. So let's select our object here. And now we have LV2 FLR. So FLR is for floors in my case at this state of the project. So we can select this. These are the floors. We can select all the floors that we want to delete and delete. This is a process where you need to plan your project, where you're going to remove some areas. And the better you get in exporting your projects and saving your projects and naming conventions, the better you get in working with Unreal or any engine that deals with data. Your problem is not how you use Unreal Engine. Your problem is how you deal with data from your own data and others' data. Because if you have few thousand actors and it's a big mess, big party here, it's going to be a massive problem for you to make any project. I'm overstressing this because it's literally the difference between failing and succeeding in a project, how a whole team or one person manage data, or let's say not failing, but let's say nightmares because there is a project or a file or something that was duplicated. It's a nightmare. So your team will thank you. Everyone will thank you if you organize what you're working on. Now, let's select the floors. Two types of floors. This could be INT for that can indicate for interiors, but that's okay. And let's select the location of the project. In this case, it's here. Should give it a color so I can see better, and we can go to our asset. We have our meshes like this. Everything where it should be. What I like to do when I import any mesh, I like this material, don't get me wrong, but I like also to use other types of materials. And I made this material with the texture graph inside Unreal Engine. I love the updates we get with Unreal. So this is a very simple grid that we made here. And I like to assign this material on my object. So I would click on my Datasmith actor and press Ctrl-Alt-D to select all descendants or children of this Datasmith scene actor. So if you right-click any folder or any actor and it has children like this, you can go to actor options and select immediate children. In the case of a folder, if you want to select everything within a folder, you can right-click and go to select immediate children or all descendants. They will do the same. So yeah, I would select all my floors or select all my static meshes or select objects that no materials. If you go just select the object that you want to replace and then go to select and select all of the same material, it will select all of the same material. So even these. Now, I would click on any object that has my grid material, find it here, and maybe copy the name, then Control Z. This is a trick I use a lot. So I would select what I want, select something else, and then Control Z. Now, I don't see my material here, and that's because we have something that is not a static mesh within our selection, and it's affecting the shared settings between all these actors. What we can do here is simply right click and go to visibility, show only selected, and if you didn't set these shortcuts, do set them, because usually I press simply H like this, and then I select any static mesh and press Ctrl Shift A to simply just select the static meshes only. And now I'd go to element 0 and I would assign my grid here. So before I do that, let's switch to unlet mode and let's do that again. So there we go, easy peasy. Now if you go to let mode and view everything, it looks much better than not having a material. And you can use different color codes to differentiate between areas in your project. So let's say green for grass, blue for stone, something for something. And if you want to spice things up, you can add few lights and your project will come to life. And you don't have this luxury in any program. You don't have the ability to see your project in the earliest stage like this in Revit, in Max, in anywhere. Not in this way. Look at this. This is amazing. I love, sorry. The ability to understand the project in the earliest possible way with a freedom like this. Any project of any scale, all in real time. Now, this part here and everything else in the project is the exact same process. So now instead of floor, we have ceilings. It can be just ceiling 3, or it can be every ceiling in the project. And in this case, it looks like just this object. So what you would do is work on this object, export it a Datasmith file, and import it. I will leave a link to the documentation of Datasmith in the description to see how really it works, but let's take a quick look together. So this is a link to Datasmith documentation on official Epic Games website. And you can see, if you scroll down, guides depending on the program you're using. So there is Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, 3ds Max, Archicad, and all these good guys. And there is also guides within how Datasmith works and what goes behind the scenes. And there is also direct link. You can see things happening in real time. You do a change here, you give it a second, and you see the exact change happened in Unreal Engine. So that's also very cool using the direct link. You have that. Now, I wanted for you to read this because reading and understanding this will give you really good idea on how to prepare your projects, work with your projects, work with other people, and be the person who bring everyone's work, everyone, in one place, which is Unreal Engine. Now, let's talk more about data. I have a feeling I still didn't convince you enough to take care of your project name, the layers and the names and even the materials. Yahya, why do you do this? Why all that? Why do you do it? Let me tell you about Dataprep. In addition to Datasmith, where it makes your life so much easier in import and export, you remember earlier this floor we exported, right? Just the exterior floors. If we want to assign the materials, the correct materials on these floors, but without flying all over and go right click and where is this and please find me this green material for the green space and so on. So imagine a project with tens of thousands of actors and many maps and like so many things. How do you deal with that? Especially if you have many sources of data, you can go to Unreal and all you need to do, I will make here, call it test, just for you, because you can literally do this and save it anywhere. We need two types of files. We need a data table. So just type data and search for data table. Select material substitute, or it's kind of more complicated than that. So we need to select the asset or the structure type to material substitution data table. Click on that, click OK. And DT for a data table, don't confuse it with Datasmith. And let's say floors, okay? Let's say this is a good start. The other file we need is a Dataprep file. So just search for data and you can find that under Dataprep assets. So right click, here you can find Dataprep asset. So let's add a Dataprep file asset and give it, so DA underscore fun test. So let's save and let's open this, the data table, and let's add 3 rows because in my case here, I have 3 different materials. So the row name Usually it matters for you or for the blueprint you're programming with, just in case if you want to automate this even more. Let's say, hey, like grass, let's say floors outside, and let's say wooden stuff. So I'm just telling you that you can name this to what you want. Now, also it might be a good idea to copy the name from 3ds Max. So let's say if this is floor rock, you can copy it here if you want, but you definitely need to copy that exact same ID we just copied from here, floor rock and wood and grass, to the search string. So grass, then we need to type floor underscore grass. Under outside, so this is the rock and this is the wood. Now, let's assign our materials that we need to automate. I have this, you've seen it already. So you can tint it, or we can use any of these different colors. So for wooden stuff, I want clay. For the floors outside, I like blue. So I can select and drag, or you can select it, then click here, or you can just search. So I can type grid underscore green, and I would save. And now I will find my asset. We saved it here. So if you click on here, you can find any asset you're working with. And let's open the fun test. When you open a Dataprep asset, you're going to see this beautiful user interface. You can cook recipes here, and the ingredients you have for your food, well, the recipes, not food, these here. So you have filters, you have operations. So just simply search here, for example, or just type material. So set material, substitute material, and substitute material by table. This is under operation. So this is one of many things you can cook the recipe. And we just need this. It's beautiful. I want to select my Datasmith file. So this is the input, this is the output. We need something for the input. And what's beautiful about this, you can select whether just a file or a whole folder. If you have a folder with many, many files, all Datasmith and CAT files can be imported here. Now, we will click on Datasmith File Importer. We just want just one file, and we need to select our exterior floors, for example. Let's click Open, and now when we click Import, we can have a preview of the file before we put it in Unreal Engine. So this is here. We already imported this. So let's actually do this. Floor, you know what? I'm very sorry, but get out of here. So let's delete all of the floors. So there is no floors anymore, at least for the exterior part. No more floors. Let's go back to our test here, and this is our actor. If we want to take a look at what do we have, so we have these materials, the same materials we have in our digital content tool. Since we have our data table, all we need to do is to go here to the recipe, click on the data table type, select DT floors, what we made, and click on execute. And just look at this. Here you can see more information, and you can see that in a second, boom, we just have our materials. There have been projects we worked on that I don't think we would finish if it was not for Dataprep and the recipes we cooked for these projects. And one of the really important ingredients in these recipes is the material substitute by table. Thank you, Epic. Thank you, everyone who made this. This was incredibly helpful for us in our projects. So save. Let's say now we're happy, so we can commit. So let's commit. Yeah, before you commit, you just need to set a location for where you want to commit, but we committed, so it is what it is. Look at that. It's beautiful. And that's just maybe 1% of what you can do. So again, put your projects in Unreal as early as possible. Set things up nicely. Now let's move on to the next ideas. Something you can do when you import the assets of a project, set up your post-process volumes, the materials, and almost everything. Now, let's say you have a master library where you have assets and things that you can add to the project to fill in the space, to prepare it in a way. That if you do, that's great. Now, if you don't worry, because Unreal Engine, Marketplace, Fab, and the Unreal projects are the best source if you want to finish your projects fast. Actually, it's a skill to learn how to find all the assets you need for a specific project to serve a specific purpose, especially if they are optimized or if you know how to optimize them fast in Unreal. Now, this project here is Hillside Sample. I will leave a link to this in the resources, and this one is made by Epic Games, Safdie Architects, and Neoscape. It's a beautiful project where you have an interior area, an exterior area, and there is this unit. So I always keep forgetting where this is. So I go to wireframe and I go to find where I want to go. And yeah, let's say if you want to copy these items, or if you want to copy or migrate any item you want from any project. So let's say the living room, but not all of it. Let's say we want this and the carpet. So this area here. So you can right click on this specific area and edit this living room just to be able to select the asset. And this is another way of using our levels. For now, all you need to know, when you open any of Epic items and you want to edit them and you're not able, or something's wrong, you can right click and edit. So you can select this as any normal mesh and press Ctrl B, and this is from Twinmotion assets. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, these items here together. I sometimes switch to wireframe or other views just to ensure I am selecting all the meshes I want to migrate. So do you have the lamp here? Yeah, now we do. So, yep, Ctrl B. This will locate our assets, and right click any asset and asset actions, click on migrate. Now it will tell you what assets is going to copy or move with these assets in order you have all of them. So we have something called external assets, Hillside, Megascans, and MS presets. Click OK. And now we need to locate the content folder of our main project. And the fastest way to do that, when you have your main project open, like so, you can press Ctrl space, right click your content folder or any folder or file, and click on Show in Explorer. So I'm going to click here and right click, click on Show in Explorer, and here is content. Now I go back to my main project where I want to migrate assets from, and I click on Select Folder. If there are some assets that already exist, for example, it tells me, hey, you have some materials, I will click yes or no. In this case, I'm going to click yes because I know I want to override them just in case. And that's it. Now, if we go back to our project and we can try and locate the files we took from here. So we remember it was something like Twinmotion. So here, Hillside, there we go. Geometry, props, interior, and whatnot. When you have a project like this and you have this set, because the problem here, we need to press this and it will place it. Then we need to press this, locate it, and wait for it. And we need to rearrange them the way they were here. And that's kind of hard. And the best way to do it is simply press Ctrl C, Ctrl V. But let's just place the assets so it's loading now. Give it a second. And there we go. So let's delete this, and let's go back to our project here. Press Ctrl C, go to my project here and press on Ctrl V. And this will paste them in the exact same spot, like so. And in my case, they look like this because I have some nanite settings that I need to fix in my project, and I have all the default settings. So the easiest thing I'm going to do, I will leave nanite for another time, and I will simply just disable nanite on my assets and keep project settings or bugs for later. I will press on Ctrl Shift S or Ctrl S to save my assets, and I can press on Move, and I can press also on Shift to move my camera. Now, a faster way is to simply either Ctrl X all of this and go back to our project. Let's say we want to paste them here or here. Yeah, here. Right click, go to Edit, and paste here. And let's now place them as they should. Maybe this. Even we can keep them here because why not? What if this one person lives here, right? Let's just right click and move these into a new folder. And let's give it a name. So it's always easy to select these items. And now we can just move this here. So let's go back to Hillside sample project and take other cool asset. So I'll go back to Hillside here, open maps, and let's open now the exterior. Here's the exterior map, And one really cool material I want to highlight is the floor or land material. I believe is this one. So edit, click, grass dry. Right click. Yes, it's this one. So grass dry. Let's click here to browse to the asset, open it, and let's find the parent material, grass. So this material here, grass, gravel, landscape, you can explore these on your own. So just this one here, I want to migrate it as well for now. Maybe the gravel as well, why not? Migrate, it will take these. Click OK and click on select folder. It will override some same levels. Let's click on no this time. Or yes, both are fine, but no will be faster. Now we can go back to our project here and we can find that material. So I will click and I will go to content, type m_grass. This one here. I will right click and create a material instance and I'll type M for material instance and type grass. That's it for now. And let's go outside and let's say this grass material, grass area, we can assign this grass material instance here. Click and drag to assign that. Now that does not look right. So let me try something. Double click the material instance and let's see if we change anything within the materials. So we have the base color and here there is this value TCB scale global. It's 001. Oh, okay. So this value here, let's change it to 1 as a start. Let's change it to 10. Yeah, that's not a bad start. And something I loved about this, if you want to simulate falling leaves, you can go here, for example, and enable this. And whenever you have big space, so if now remove this, it will just work, which is amazing. So you would bring an object. So let's bring this object and make it like so. That's amazing, right? So there are so many options you can change in the material instance here. And the same is true for many materials within the project here, from concrete to the asphalt to the gravel to the grass and so on. So I definitely recommend checking out the community fab. Check out the projects and reverse engineer these projects, reverse engineer how things are being made, and borrow them to your projects if they do their purpose. Because the thing about Unreal projects, you don't see just one image and you're done. No, when you build a project, you see it from all angles, from everywhere. So if you're building a room, you see a room, and if you're building a city, you see a city. And that's a lot to take, a lot to do. So definitely make good use of what exists online and what other people are doing. There is Fab, there is Google, there is the whole internet. It's a skill to find anything that will assist you in finishing your projects faster. And of course, you need to read the agreements and to know the difference between commercial and free license. So this is it about migrating assets from a place to a place. Now, if you have more questions, let me know in the comments. And if there is anything else to cover, we will cover as we go. How do we bring our own assets? Well, there are multiple ways. The first, if you go here, you're gonna see import content and you can select the folder and you can access the exact same button from here, import. And let's say we want to import this FBX file or any file we want to import. So from here, you can see all the files we can import. By default, you're gonna see all files. So you can import images, FBX files, wave files, image sequences. There is so much you can import. I don't know what you cannot import. So let's say this chair here, if you click on open, you will get the dialog. So before I do that, before I continue with the dialog, I want to cancel because I want to import my assets in a specific place. So that's the main difference. From here, you can create a folder or select a folder, but from here, wherever you click import, you will import. So let's go to our project. So this is the project here, and we can say right now, just quick folder, call it meshes, and let's say this is a chair. So from here, I click import, select my file, And now, this is one way to import FBX files. We get this default dialog. If it detects this is a skeletal mesh, you might see this sometimes enabled by default. If this happens by mistake, just disable it and you will see this. If you want to enable nanite by default on your asset, you can do that from here. For now, I will keep it as it is because I need to set up some stuff with my rendering settings. Generate missing collision. So everything here, if you reset to default, that's what I have. What you may want to focus on is under advanced, you want to make sure generate light map UVs. You may want or may not want to check or uncheck this sometimes, especially if you want to light bake your maps and maybe you have all your light maps set up and you don't want Unreal Engine to set them up in different way. So this is a setting here. Combine meshes. If you are importing a file with many meshes and you want to combine all of them together, you can do that from here. A couple of settings here that are important is combine meshes. That's what most likely you want to work with. If you have LODs, you can do that from here. Transform is to offset the transform and whatnot. So materials, if you have materials, usually I just click import. I keep it simple as it is. And there we go. There is our asset. So I will go the textures folder here, select the textures and click and drag here. Set them next to my asset for now. We can create a master material for this or our current material, make it more advanced, our master material. Once we get into the materials, we will talk in more depth about this. But what you need to do, if you click and drag an asset like this, if it creates a material for it like this or multiple materials, that's cool. If it does not, or if you don't want this, you want to create a new one, you can right click and make one from here. But now let's double click this. And all we need to do is to press Ctrl space, select our three textures, click and drag and place them here. So we want to connect the normal to normal. If we want to connect the color to base color, and this funny map, the RGB map, is a texture with multiple textures baked in it. So R, G, B. There is no B. So let me double check. It says AORM. So R for ambient occlusion and G here for roughness and B for metallic. So R, we can connect it to ambient occlusion and G can connect it to roughness. And I will click on save. And let's see how this is looking. It's looking cool. Let's set it maybe here. Let's make a friend. Rotate this friend to the other friend. The post process is very annoying. So let's select that. Select three of them. Go to lens flare. Set the intensity to 0.01. Okay. I love Lumen because we can see the global illumination. So this is one of the most simple way to import assets to your project. You simply go to import and select an FBX asset that you have in your library. Maybe you download it from Fab or you've just exported from your application. Now let's explore other ways to bring data to Unreal. So here I found an asset. This one is made with Blender and we also have converted files automatically to GLTF. I've downloaded this and let's import that. So I will click to find my asset and I will unzip it. So we can unzip it like this or right click and click on extract all. We should be good. Now let's open Unreal and let's find or make a folder called temp, T-E-M-P. So right click, let's do that. This way we know we can delete anything here. And we can call GLTF _ test. So let's find our file. Now we could do this, click and drag. That's actually 1/3 way I forgot to say in the FBX, but click and drag is the fastest way instead of import. Just make your folder, click and drag. You can go slightly more basic if you don't want to see so many settings, or you can disable this and go through all the settings you have. Now, you can change the asset name. So here, coffee instead of scene, for example. You can offset, translation, rotation, the scale. You can make it smaller or bigger. Sometimes asset will be 10 times smaller or 10 times bigger. So all these settings I recommend checking out. Now, Full precision UVs, this is also related to light bake. You may want to enable this or disable it. If your mesh is skeletal or if you have animations, you can do this from here. If you want to build nanite, scroll all the way down to build. Here you can find build nanite, generate light map UVs just like we saw in the FBX, and even more settings. I will simply click on import and look at this. So we have the coffee cup, and then now we have the name of the objects. So if you go to a table and click and drag, we have our asset and it looks beautiful. Let's see, so base color factor, we can change this also for the plate. So this is properly named, this is really good. And we can also change these to cup, SM underscore spoon, plate, and here we can add M for the cup. Yeah. So that's how you bring GLTF files. In this lesson, we will talk about exporting assets from Blender. So you might use different tools, you have 3D Max or Revit, and you want assets to your projects. There are some amazing resources online. Blender is one of them. So there is Blender Kit, there is this file by Luan Rodriguez, there is also the demo files from Blender. So Linux design, this is a beautiful apartment, and there is the whole internet where you can find amazing resources. I love using Unreal Engine because it brings all 3D software together in one place. So I already downloaded this house. We're going to do 2 exports, USD GLTF with the native program from Blender, and we will also test the USD branch from NVidia. Before we do that, let's go to the native version, and from here, all we need to do is to go to File, Export, and we can find the Universal Scene Description, USD file, and we can find FBX and GLTF. I will select USD, and the future of USD is really bright. This is getting better and better. I kept everything as they are, and I click export, and now let's go to Unreal Engine to do simple import. In order to import USD files, first we need to enable the importer plugin. If you go to import your file, you will not see any USD files. If you try to click, drag, drop, it will not work. So let's go to Edit, Plugins, and here we can type USD and we can find USD Importer. So click here, click yes, and let's restart the engine. Once we restart the engine, we can open our level. So I will set project tests, open the level, and now we can go to our USD file. So I make a new one, and we will import our file here. So I click on import, and now I will set my file. And now, as you can see, we can see our USD file. In addition to that, you can see here that we have these new extensions when we enable the plugin. So select the file, click OK, and from here you can select all the primitives that you want to import. From here you can set the data that you want to import, so geometry, animation, sequences. USD is really good, and it just keeps getting better. Now click import. I kept all the settings at default. After a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on the scale of your project, you're gonna see a few folders. We will see the materials, we will see the static meshes, and we will see the textures. Now, that's one problem with exporting full scenes with Blender not using Datasmith. It will be a little hard to place these. If you try to click and drag, you will see everything placed like so. So that's not ideal. One other way to export our files is to try GLTF. So when it comes to exporting full scenes, if you want to maintain the best quality possible for one simple asset, you can do that, or a couple of assets. But when it comes to a whole scene, one trick I use is simply using GLTF. So from File, go to Export, select GLTF, and let's go to Desktop where I have my file here, and I will simply put GLTF. I will open it, and I will name this test, and I will click on Export. Once export is finished, we can go back to Unreal Engine, and we can open our folders here. I will select my file GLTF, and I will click on Import. And let's select the file. Once you open your GLTF file, you can see the GLTF importer. And if you want to change any settings, you can do that from here. So click on import, and that will place your file for you. Now, the thing about exporting with GLTF, it will reset all the pivots. So in a way, it will make it easier for you to place your project where it should be, but it will also mess with the pivots. So in order to be able to select all our static meshes, as you can see, that's the main difference between GLTF and USD. Here we have folders, here we have everything in one place. You can go to the filters here and click on static mesh. Now we have only our static meshes within this folder. Select everything, click and drag, and we will see our project with the textures and whatnot, and Unreal Engine will do its best to preserve everything. Now, when it comes to translucent materials, these are kind of tricky, but let's see how this looks when we add the lights. So environment light mixer, let's click multiple times to add all the default lightings. Let's switch to LED mode and check this out. So this is really cool. But the thing is about these assets, they all are in the same pivot. So you may want to use a mix between GLTF and USD to export your files. This is one way to export your projects. If you have any problems with the USD exporter with the native version of Blender, we can try NVidia version. So I will open Omniverse and I will go to apps and I will search for Blender, or simply here type Blender. Click on the USD branch. So right now we have 4.2 and you can select any build you want. We will select the latest build and we'll click on install. This will download a separate version from Blender, so a standalone version. It's a different branch where you can use it with Omniverse and Unreal Engine and other programs that support USD. NVidia are very big on USD. When download is finished, we can click on launch. And here is the NVIDIA version. So just like always, you can delete the default cube and we can open our project. So for this scenario, I'm going to download this apartment from Linux Design. Click on any file you want to download. In this case, I will click here and then I will set the location. This is already the same location, the same file, so we can open it. Open the file you downloaded and here we are. So this is a beautiful, beautiful apartment. If we want to see how does it look when it's rendered, we can quickly take a look. And it's nice. So I switch back to solid mode. I will go to File, Export, and I will select Universal Scene Description again. I'll make a folder for that. And we can again change the settings from here. If you want to include or not include anything, you can do that from here. So I will keep everything as default and I will click on Export USD. When export is finished, we can go back to Unreal Engine. So this is the engine here. I will make another quick level. So I'll go back to my tests, select my map, disable my filter and make another level. I'll open this new level. I don't need to save anything for now, except for this level and this level. And now we can go back to import content. We can set the location. Or if you don't want to set the location, you can simply go to where you want to import. So here I will make another folder and I will click on import and I will select my file. Click open, click OK, and it will be the same dialog. So here are all the primitives and the meshes, geometry, sequences, materials and textures, and more. Let's click on import and give it a few seconds. We will have the same structure. So this is the static mesh folder, textures, and materials. If I select all my static meshes, click and drag, this will not be the best export. And as you can see, here is our file, but it's all on top of each other and the scale of the file needs to be fixed and all that. So without Datasmith, you can use multiple methods or multiple ways. Now, when it comes to such data, what we need to do is to apply transform, scale, and everything on our scene. You want to export your scene individually. So you would export all the walls first, and then you would export all the sofas, or you merge them. This will take longer compared to Datasmith, but it will also work. One way you can export your scenes from Blender if you are using Omniverse is using Blender to export to USD, then import in Omniverse, and then use the Omniverse and Unreal Engine connector to export your scenes from Omniverse to Unreal Engine. As you can see, this is much more complicated than Datasmith, but it works. If you practice this and you figure out your production workflow, it will be good. If not, I highly recommend exporting your scenes separately into smaller pieces, and it also depends on how you prepare your projects. So this project here will be really easy to export since we have the layers, so we can turn off anything that we don't want, the build by itself, and then the furniture, and so on. Let's give this version a test with GLTF. So I'll click on File, Export, GLTF, and I will do another folder, create folder, and click on Export. You can view the settings if you want, but I'm keeping everything at default. Give it a few seconds, and when it finishes, you can go back to Unreal Engine here. Let's delete everything from here, and let's go back to Import. So I will go back one step, make another test folder, and I will click on Import, and I will select my file. So this is the file we exported. I will click on Import, give it a few seconds, click on Static Meshes only, select all the static meshes, click and drag, and here we are. So this is the scene that we downloaded from Blender, and it looks mostly right. We don't have the glass materials, but that's okay. As you can see, we have all the assets, the materials, the emissive materials, and their textures. So we can switch to LUT mode. We will not see anything, but we can add any lights or anything you want to add to your project. As I said, I highly recommend exporting your project on multiple vases, one for the architecture, one for the furniture, and so on. It will just make it so much easier for you to manage your projects. Compared to Datasmith Workflow, USD and GLTF are pretty decent if you don't have Datasmith, but you need to figure out a production pipeline for yourself depending on your projects and how you create your projects. So I hope you found this part useful, and I will see you in the next one.